one. Good evening, and welcome to The Parent Impact. I'm your host, Tafshier Cosby, and we are powered by the National Parents Union. Thank you for coming by. We appreciate you coming by this Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock. You could have been anywhere, but you are here with us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're going to start the show as we usually do with our updates from New Jersey and our updates from Newark. So let's start with our Newark update. And this is a little bit of the New Jersey update also. So we talked about this a few weeks ago, where we have families in the city who are essential workers and who have to go back to work, and they need to have some type of remote learning centers for their children, a place where their children can go while they actually are at work. We know that the National Parents Union actually gave out grants to families for pods, and we're going to have another round of that funding session, of that grant session, and we're excited for that. So in New Jersey, we received additional funds from the state and the federal government to be able to provide subsidy to families who need to have childcare during the day while they're at work, to be able to help their children do their remote learning or create a pod. So that funding has been received, it's been released. So we do have the application link for families to be able to apply to that. So that is going to be a weight off of, a lot of families' chest, knowing that they can have that opportunity to get that subsidy, so they can have someone during the day being there with their children while they're remote learning, just being there to help, being part of a pod, just really offering that support that a lot of families in the city need. So I'm excited that that has finally been released. That has been something that has been keeping me awake, thinking about families either not being able to go to work or having to resign from their positions because they don't have any right to watch their children. We know right now that remote learning is the safest way, but we still have to think about the families and their needs. So also in the city of Newark, the mayor is also providing remote learning centers. These are free to residents in the city of Newark and anyone who works for the Newark Board of Education. So he is going to be opening the 9 community centers. There's 1 or 2 in each ward of the city. So parents will have the opportunity to bring their children to those community centers during the hours of 8:30 to 4:30, from ages 7 to 13, and grades 1 through 8. So again, they're going to give them breakfast, they're going to give them lunch. It's free for families in the city of Newark. And this is just another program to be able to help parents who are essential employees or ones that have to report back to work very soon. So I'm happy to hear that we have these programs going for our families because it was much needed. So now I can actually get some sleep at night. So our New Jersey update, and this is kind of a U.S. update, right? We are mourning the passing of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She passed away a couple of days ago, and we all know what she meant to the world. We know what she meant to women's rights, human rights, and just everyone with her ability to fight the good fight, for everyone, specifically women, to make sure that women have the right to work, the right to be pregnant at work, the right to take off time, to be with their families. So we salute Ruth Bader Ginsburg for all the work she has done for our country and for women specifically. And New Jersey, we like to brag about folks that have either lived here or were born here or came here for just any old thing. So she, we love to keep people as our own, right? So Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a professor at Rutgers Law in New Jersey from 1963 to 1972. So because of that, she is an honorary New Jerseyan, and we mourn her passing. So that is our New Jersey update. So tonight, we are going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. Anybody who's ever talked to me knows how excited I am to be talking about voting and voter registration and getting people out to the polls and having conversation about voting. So tonight, I'm blessed to have 2 of our MPU delegates. One of them is a regional delegate with me here on the East Coast, Mrs. Maritza Garudi. And then we have our Texas delegate, Wendy Gonzalez-Neal. We are all on the Every Family Votes Committee together. And I'm excited and blessed to have them on the Parent Impact Live tonight. So please, come on, ladies, let's get to this conversation. Hey, ladies.
Hi, how are
How
you?
are you? So good to see both of you. I know we see each other once a week, but I mean, the more we see each other, it's always the better, right? We always
Yes,
have a good time when we see each other. We're always laughing and talking and talking politics and talking about voting and
yes,
trying to figure out more ways to engage our families, right? And something so very important. Um, so let's just start off with I talked a little bit about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her passing. So, you know, I wanted to give my respects to our fearless leader from National Parents Union, the mother, the fearless, wonderful mom. This is making me choke up.
oh,
The
I'll be
fearless,
quiet.
wonderful mom of our fearless leader, um, Carrie Rodriguez. Her mom passed away a few days ago. It was a shock to her family, and I want to send my condolences and my prayers and my love to her family. I feel your pain really strongly, and I want you to know that my condolences and my love go out to you and your family.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our deepest condolences to her.
Yes, I mean she's our mom in chief, even though we
Absolutely.
she's a mama bear and she has her little ones that she's taking care of right now, but we kind of see her as our mama. She takes care of us and she leads the way and we follow, and our condolences to the family. Um, we know this is hard times, different prayers and spirits are out to the family. I know how that is. I understand that.
So, yeah. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. So we want to send our condolences. So tonight we're going to talk about something that is, I think, near and dear to all of us, and something that our entire country should be focused on, not just for the federal elections, right? We talk a lot about, you know, what's happening on the federal level, but we know that we need to, all of us, make sure that we're paying attention on a local level about what's happening in voting and making sure that families are going out and vote and things like that. So first, let's tell our viewers a little bit about you, since I've been on your shows, but you haven't been on mine. So I think we have different viewers. I think we have maybe 5 or 6 different people who watch our shows who are. So tell our viewers a little bit about you guys. Either one of you can start.
After you, Wendy.
Oh, well, thank you. um, as Tafshier mentioned, I'm Wendy Gonzalez Neal. Not only am I the Texas delegate for National Parents Union, I'm also the executive director and founder of My Child, My Voice, a nonprofit organization here based in Houston, Texas, where we help educate families. We support them. Basically, what we're called are, parent mentors,
Awesome. I love
doing
that.
all the work here.
I
Okay.
love that.
Yes. And I am Maritza Gertie. I reside in Philadelphia, but I spent almost 20 years up top, right near Newark in Passaic, New Jersey, where I
Thank
went
you,
to school.
girl. Yeah, we claiming
Yes,
people.
yes,
We still claiming her. She don't even
yes.
anymore. We still claiming her.
I always say it, born in Brooklyn, raised in Jersey, living in Philly. That's how I always say it.
Wow.
And parent advocate. I mean, at an early age, I made sure that I spoke for my family, and now I'm continue to speak not only for my family but also the families of others, and I also am helping the children of others as well.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
mean, I think that's how we all got started. Because I'm a mother of 4 with 2 grandkids now, and that's who I'm fighting for. I mean, is our future.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have to make sure that we raise our voices and be able to help other families be able to raise theirs, right? You said you were a mentor for parents. I think everybody could use a mentor, right? Even
Exactly.
parents, I mean, not everybody knows how to have a conversation about education. Not everybody knows how to be able to use their voice for change or use their voice for action. So
Exactly.
I love that you guys are mentoring families down there in Texas. I love that. I'm gonna
And I can't believe it's only 42 days. 42 days, fam.
Yes.
42 days
Around the corner.
for one of the biggest life-changing events is going to happen for everybody in this country.
Truly. So
It is. I mean, right now, the big controversy, especially when Tafshier, and you brought up, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that is a hot topic right now.
Yes. And especially for them to want to get a new one in there when they themselves wouldn't allow it when President Obama was president, right? Like, that party wouldn't allow him to do it, but now they are pressing for themselves to do it. I mean,
she even wrote a note about it saying she wanted to wait until the new president was in to have her seat filled.
Absolutely. So they are not only going against her wishes, but really just doing whatever the heck they want to do. And that's not fair to the rest of the country, I mean, it's politics, but still, respect this woman's wishes. She was on the bench for a very long time, and she did so much for our country. At least respect her wishes. So yeah, I mean, they're like steamrolling this thing over, and it's going to be crazy. So we got 42 days to make sure that we register to vote. Well, first have these conversations with our families about voting, right? Like really have these real conversations about voting. Register to vote, get out the vote, and then hopefully celebrate on November the 3rd. Hopefully celebrate.
I was like, the 3rd?
Hopefully celebrate on November the 3rd. Well, hopefully there's some celebrating going on because we need to celebrate. We need some celebrations going on around here. So let's talk a little bit about families and talking about voting and making sure that we work with families to make sure that they continue to flex their muscle when it comes to voting. So let's talk a little bit about your family story and your family and yourself voting or watching your parents vote when you were younger. Tell us a little bit about your first time you remember going with your parents to vote or the first time you voted yourself.
Maritza, you go.
Oh, wow. So we're talking about, I was back in Passaic. My mom had recently become a U.S. citizen. I believe it was during the Reagan era. And she was like, I'm going to vote. I don't care. She was like, come with me. So we went with her to the polling place and we translated for her because back then it wasn't really very Spanish speaking friendly or Spanish reading friendly. Mm-hmm. So we had to make sure we let her know. She said, whoever is the Democrat, that's all she cared about. Whoever is the Democrat, that's who I want to vote for. Because for her, I honestly don't know if she really understood the Republican and Democrat, but for her, the word Democrat really resonated with her because of democracy.
Right.
So that's how she associated that. So ever since then, she always did it. And then when I became old enough to vote, I started doing it. Let me see. The first time I voted, I was actually in Philly because I came here when I was 19. So it was in Philadelphia. And back then, I just had my one son, Richard. He was probably 2 or 3 years old. And ever since, all my children have gone with me on election day, and we go as a family.
Awesome. I love that. That's how it should be, right? We should be having these conversations and showing kids like this is what it looks like. Get them excited about it when they get older. How about you, Wendy?
Mine was very interesting growing up because we're a military family. So a lot of my family members are Army or Air Force, Marine. So the importance of voting was there, especially my father. He was very active in the Republican Party. But my mom couldn't vote because my mom at the time was still not a citizen, and he kept encouraging her because she would always complain about the things going on in the community. And he says, well, the only way to do that, to see change, is you got to vote. Let's get you, because she really was struggling with becoming a citizen because she came here at a very young age. But growing up, I saw my father very active and things like this. He thought it was very important for us to see this. And the reason why I'm kind of, going this direction with this, because I had my father was one that would take us to the polls, talk about, the elections, debates go on. He would have these conversations with me and my sisters. But to be honest, is when I became age, to vote, I didn't see the importance of it. I didn't think that my vote could really make a difference, right? I didn't see the changes. My father would be really fired up about a lot of things, and oh, you need to do this. It's your civic duty. It's your right. It's but it just never, I never resonated with me. Like, I don't see the changes here, you know, until I became a mom is when my life, of course, changes for everyone and becomes a parent. But that's when I realized if I want to see this change, I need to take action. And so, it wasn't my father giving me that, voter registration. It was actually somebody at our church that was going around. She was a registrar, deputy registrar, going around encouraging people, asking them, have you registered to vote? And she looked at me because she knew that because my family, they know my family, and said, are you going to register this year? And I said, this is the year.
Right.
I need to see the changes. I'm seeing the injustices, what's going on, not just in my kids' schools, but I'm also seeing the injustices with my community, immigrants around our community, and things need to change. And if I can try to do this, and that's when my whole world changed, where I didn't even realize I can vote on school board, elected officials. I didn't know, and it just blew my mind how much we can make a difference by voting. And a lot of people are shocked because, when they hear me talk, they're like, oh, you probably registered when you were 18 years old. Nope.
Nope. And even after having grown up, like with a dad who was like really involved, right? Yeah. I definitely don't think you're alone. I think that I'm not going to say the name of a party, but I think the other party does a really great job of that messaging, of telling people that their vote doesn't matter. My thing is, why would someone, if they do so much to stop people from voting, and in your mind, you should think, this must be something good because they're doing so many things to try to get me to not do this thing. That's how
exactly.
that's how I like explaining it to people. I'm like, if it didn't matter, then why would they try so hard to stop you from doing it if it didn't matter, right? For me, my mom, she used to take us to the polls to vote. It was right at our school. Our school would close for the day. We lived right across the street from the school, so we would just walk across the street. She would go cast a ballot, and we were there with her. I registered to vote when I was 18. My first time voting was actually when I was 19, I think. I voted for Bill Clinton the first time. I thought he was, going to be a great president. I thought he was really cool. He played the saxophone. I was like, okay,
I think everybody did when he pulled out that saxophone.
Yeah, everybody was like, hey, we see you. All right, I was young. It was the 90s. Everybody was, doing buppies, and we were living our lives and getting out on our own and graduating high school and going to college and all those things. So he was my first time actually voting. But it's always been, thinking about voting has always been a passion. Thinking about my vote, my specific vote, and how it matters specifically in my individual community, right? Like you said, school board, and really for my children, they've always gone with me to vote. I've always taken them. We take pictures outside. They've always heard me talk about voting. They've always heard me talk to other people about voting, encourage people to register to vote. And when they turn 17, because we can register to vote here in New Jersey at 17. So when they turn 17 on their birthday and their birthday card, they get a birthday card, they get a present, and they get a voter registration form.
That's awesome.
You're not getting away. It's like it's a vote, and now I know that you're going to make sure you vote. And I text my whole family, beforehand. I'm like, get out and vote, and they're just like, oh, here's Aunt Kim, and I'm like, yes, like do that. Make sure you guys get out and vote. It's important. And we really have to build this muscle of voting, right? So a lot of people talk about the federal voting, right? We saw the video, I think, what was his name? Yellow hair, yellow tail, the guy that has the video out where he's really like, he's like breaking down like the judicial, the federal, like I forget the name of the video, but it's a really great video. It's going viral right now. He's a young person. He's a millennial, and he's really talking about the specifics of voting, right? He said, he's saying we're so focused on the presidential election, which is important, which is absolutely important.
It's important, but
But
local.
we don't think about our local elections. We don't think about how it affects us personally. How does your council, what does your council people do? How does that affect your water, your fire, your police, the people they're hiring, the planning board? Like, how do those things affect you personally? And I think that's what a lot of our conversations need to be about, right? We need to talk about voting on a national level, but also voting locally. Like, what does that look like? And really just telling everybody to vote every time. Every time you have the opportunity to vote, get out there and cast that ballot. I mean,
it's the local ones that it's more, to me, I'm not saying the presidential one, like you said, it's important, but the local ones are the big things because we see those impacts in our community. You've got to be engaged in what's going on there. And then it's like, okay, who do I vote for? Take the time to register and then take the time to actually research your ballot, know what's on your ballot, know what's, if there's something on there that they want to pass, okay, I got to figure out what this is first before I vote yay or nay, so, and then two, listen to, family members. I mean, it used to be a big debate in my family because we had families that were Democrats, Republicans in the middle, and but it was interesting to hear families to say why they vote, right? My grandmother's like, I'm always going to vote Democrat because they helped us, during the Depression. That was her. She didn't care who was there. That's how her voting was. But she goes, I will tell you this, no matter who you decide, it's important for you to vote. She used to always tell us that. And then that was coming from my grandmother.
Right. And you're like, okay, grandma. Like, all right.
It is absolutely important because there are so many people that do not have the right to vote.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it, this is a blessing for those of us that were born here that can do it. There are so many of us that are here that cannot vote, whether it be because of their citizenship status,
right,
or they may have had a past that involves some kind of crime that they have been indicted for and they may have served time for, and their state may not allow it at this moment in time. Like, I found out last month that there was a decision in the state of Florida to allow people that were formerly incarcerated to then go ahead and vote.
Yes.
And then somebody tried the state withheld that right. And then they sued them to get it back. So now they can do it again. Yep. So people need to do their research and find out. There's so many people out there that think, man, I can't because I have a record. No, you need to call who you need to call.
Yes.
Call the Board of Elections, find out where I live in my state. Can I vote? Because your vote does matter.
And then two, if you can't vote, I mean, my mom was one of them. She could not vote, right? But because my father was very active, he showed her ways to help voting. Yes. And that's the most awesome thing, is showing, going out there, talking to people about it. And then, especially my mom being an immigrant and, Spanish being her first language, she was able to talk to more people because more people were like her saying, well, why should I vote? I can't even vote. What can I do? She's like, you have kids that are coming up to age.
Yes.
You have family members who were born and raised here in Texas. She was having these conversations. So there's a lot of ways, that we can encourage people, even though you yourself may not be able to vote. There's so many ways to encourage and educate people about voting. That's one thing I admire about my father, is that he did that with my mother. And then I saw my mother, because she didn't understand the parties. She didn't understand, because she said in her country it was totally different. Mm-hmm. And so she was being educated by it and realized that, people can, make things change and have their voices heard, because my dad would introduce her to the elected officials. She's like, because in her country, you don't meet the elected officials,
I mean, some of them you don't meet here either, right? Yep. I just had a conversation earlier with somebody, and we were talking about, people thinking about politicians as like these people that are like on a pedestal, they're like kings and queens or something, they really look at them as like this, and as these people who are literally put on a pedestal. And I'm like, I see them as public servants because I voted you. I was part of the collective of people who voted you into that office to make changes for my community. So Yes, you could be a nice person. Yes, you could be handsome. Yes, you could be beautiful. Your clothes could be awesome. But when I see you as a person in my community, I see you as a public servant to my community. I don't see you as this person that's on a pedestal that I can't, that's untouchable or unreachable.
I mean, they're
Or
human. They're just like us. They're moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandparents. I mean, they, are human. They breathe the same life.
I would be concerned about the people that hold particular offices that are not in the community.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I would be concerned about.
Exactly.
If you're supposed to be, I'm supposed to be one of your constituents in your ward, in your legislative district, and I never see you in my community, you don't deserve my vote.
That's right.
You do not deserve my vote. So I am all for the people that are in here on the ground.
Yes.
In the community.
Yes.
Making decisions, has an open door policy.
That's right.
Response to an email, call, or text.
Exactly.
That's who I want to talk to. The ones that are not responding to emails, calls, or texts, I'm going to have an issue with you. And I will let my friends and family know that I have an issue with you.
That's right. And
That's right.
Vote them out.
That's it.
Vote them out.
You want the ones that have the best interests of us, our community.
Yes.
You got to get out there and talk to them.
Yeah, I agree. And that's part of our Every Family Votes campaign, right? That's part of it. That's part of what we're trying to bring. We're trying to bring education to families surrounding voting. We're trying to elevate family voices, because we're talking about a lot of people in different communities who feel differently about voting, but their authentic voices aren't being heard, right? We know National Parents Union is the authentic voice of parents. So we want to make sure that parents' voices are being heard around the country about how they feel about voting. Is it important to them? Is it not important to them? Do they take their kids? Like we really want to make sure that these voices are being elevated so we can really start to tell the true stories of families and why they are voting, right? Like what it means to them and what it means to their family to be able to vote, to have this ability to cast this ballot. For a lot of African Americans, our ancestors died. They died, to be able to have this opportunity to vote. So for a lot of families, this is a deeper connection, not just to be able to vote now, but they feel like, for generations and generations when we were unable to vote, and now that we have the ability, like they would never, turn their back on their ancestor and not vote because of that. Because they're like, you did this for me. I'm standing on your shoulders, and you were able to do this for me. So I absolutely have to make sure that I still have you in me. So I live your dream of being able to vote. And we also want to make sure that we're pushing people registering to vote, families registering to vote. And I think the biggest gap that we have in a lot of our states, a lot of people are being registered to vote, right? We're doing voter registration drives that are going on year round, and we're always, we always see a community event or somebody with a voter registration table. But I think the largest gap that we find is the disconnect between people registering to vote and actually casting the ballot. I think that is the largest disconnect that we have happening in our cities.
It's true, and that's the thing. It's educating your community, your family members, your friends, your neighbors, to let them know the importance of voting, right? Because a lot of times, like my niece, she was, I actually became a deputy registrar, and I was able to sign her up. It was just like, she's like, oh my God, my aunt is actually doing this. And then I'm like, yeah, but are you going to actually vote? And so reminding her, like, hey, here are the dates, this is what's going on, early registration. Early voting. Do you know what that means? And she's like, no. It's educating those people. And it doesn't matter what age or where they're from or who they are. It's educating them on, what they can do and when they can do it and how they can do it, right? Because a lot of times it changes state by state on these rules, right? And so it's like, oh, like you were mentioning about the mail-in ballot. Well, we can't do mail-in ballot here in Texas because we have very strict rules to do the mail-in ballot, but they do push. And I have to say, because I know I get all these, Texas sends all these information cards through the mail. I mean, look at it, even the Postal Service, is doing this, So, I mean, that's what that toolkit is one is learning how to educate, knowing everything that was going on in your state, showing how easy it is with that toolkit, with National Parents Union Toolkit.
Yes.
It tells you in your state what's going on, but then it shows you, okay, what are my next steps? How else can I, get out the word, get out that vote, and it's, how do I talk to an elected official? Because I know when I first talked to my elected official, I had no clue what to do, what to say, even how to address the person. I'm thinking, am I supposed to bow, or am I supposed to, say, that's how nervous I was, because I actually met my rep at the state capitol, and I didn't know this. I was supporting an education bill, and he sat on the education committee.
Look at that.
I did not know that. And when he saw that, and then because I had people telling me, okay, you're in district here, say this and say that. And I'm like, well, what does that have to do with it?
Right.
Did you know your elected official sits on this committee? No.
Oh, that changes the game, right?
And it actually really did change the game, because when I testified, when he heard I was his constituent, all of a sudden we were best friends. He was coming back to me, I was going back to him. And that's how easy it is with elected officials, is once they know that, and they see that, one, if you're supporting one of their, their causes, or, their bills, to say, I mean, it's really good to really know who your elected officials, where they stand, and are they representing our community?
Absolutely. We also have to make sure that everyone within the range of our voices that's listening right now spreads the word about making sure you understand the date, the deadline to register,
right?
The deadline to get that mail-in ballot in early, and with regards to making sure there's not, because there's always is, but there will be cases of voter suppression.
Yes.
Do not let that an address change for a polling place be one of the reasons why you were not able to vote.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I just noticed around my neighborhood, I have 4 to 5 different schools, charter and public. And as I was driving around this weekend, and in front of my school that I work out of, they put the signs up now saying, since last week, we're changing the polling location. So many people are used to going to one particular place, election after election, whether it's mid-year or, presidential elections. And all of a sudden, especially for our senior citizens or our disabled folks that are walkers, they need to know, is this place still going to be open for me to be able to vote? And if not, I have to make plans to get to the other location.
Exactly.
And the more people know, the more votes will be counted.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's going to be a problem, right? That's a potential problem in your community. That's going to happen. And again, this is why we have to stay diligent. We have to stay encouraged. We have to have the resources. We have to have the information to make sure that we know when we're going and casting that ballot, that we are sure that our ballot is going to be counted, right? We talked a little bit about, and I was actually remiss at the beginning of this conversation, even remembering that today is National Voter Registration Day, right?
Yay!
It's like the perfect day to have this conversation.
I'm gonna put this up.
My shirt
to have this conversation.
We got the shirt going. Hold on, I'm not done yet.
My mailman.
There you go. Your face
we got the bag going. We got long shirts, t-shirts, stickers, buttons.
Yes.
All kinds of ways to support the National Parents Union Every Family Votes campaign. Show your support.
And I think it's great, because if you wear something, I get stopped when I go to the store and I'm wearing these masks, because now that's our new norm now, is the mask. And I get people who look at me and they're just looking, and then I was like, are you registered to vote? And then they're just looking at me like, what?
That's right.
Conversation.
Right.
Start the
It's a conversation,
That's it. Conversation starter. I know, when it's not election time, and I'll see parents, I'll always ask them, and I'll have on like a parenting shirt or an advocate shirt. I'll say to them, like, are you in your PTA? Or like, are you in your PTO? Are you like engaged in your kid's school? And they're, and it's like, so you see my shirt, it's my school PTA shirt. Like, if you're looking at it, then you must be involved in your own school's PTA.
I mean, that's very true. I mean, because I was, my kids, PTA, and always, that's what really encouraged me to really think about voting, because of the things I was seeing. And sometimes you can just be sitting there next to another parent, and well, now it's virtual, but but the thing is you are talking about complaining or whether you're highlighting something that's good in the community, not good in the community. These changes can be made if you vote. I mean, it's more important than ever now to get out that vote.
Yeah.
Families do make a difference. I mean, coming from someone that thought that it didn't, it really does matter. No matter who you are, where you are, all of our voices matter. And that's why it's so important to vote.
Absolutely. And if
And if
that,
you're not,
that's your
oh, I'm
voice,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's your voice. That's your voice to your elected official.
And if you're the kind of person that has been seeing what's been going on in the news and on social media, but you yourself are not the kind of person that's going to be out there like protesting in the streets or doing anything of that nature, your form of protest can be that you not only go vote, but you bring others with you.
Yes.
That can be the biggest statement you could make this
Absolutely.
year, is that, you know what, I'm tired of the status quo. Things need to change. I'm not only going to vote, I'm going to talk to all my neighbors, I'm going to talk to all my girlfriends. Hey, let's all meet up at the polling place if we live near each other, or let's all make sure we meet somewhere and go to our places and we can celebrate that when we're done voting, just to make sure these votes are counted. Because I was reading to you ladies earlier before we got on here. In my state, in the state of Pennsylvania, there are over 8,800,420 registered voters as of the 21st of September.
Wow.
As of yesterday.
That's a lot.
So that's a lot of votes.
That's a lot of votes.
If you
Now, the important thing is, are they going to cast that vote?
Exactly. If all these people, I mean, in every state that's listening to us, whatever state you're living in, you could just Google it. How many registered voters in my state? And it breaks it down by county. So you can know how many people in your county. So when you're talking to these folks that are running for office again, say, hey, I want to be a volunteer. But you know what's funny, Tafshier? When I aged myself saying when my mother voted, I remember my first political rally. And this was back in '88 when Jesse Jackson was trying to run for president. He came to Passaic High School. And at 16, 17 years old, I was a volunteer.
Wow.
I was out there in Passaic, you know, handing out this, handing out that. Kasim, if you on here, you probably remember that because you from Passaic. But, you know, he said hello. But that's what I was doing. So we also have to energize these young people, these future voters, these new voters. Energize them. Say, listen, when I was your age, way back in the day, this is what I did. This is what we did. Or this is what my parents did.
Exactly.
And that's what we started, that spark.
Yeah.
You got to start that spark and create a fire.
That's right. And that's right. Because we need them now. We need them when they get older.
Yeah, they're our future.
I think for our millennials, you know, it's funny. Last year on this day, I actually did a training session for a group of seniors. And the training session was literally why voting local matters. And we talked about democracy. And the first thing I asked them, same question I asked you ladies, like what was their first remembrance of going to vote or listening to like politics or elections. And of course it was Barack Obama because they were all like 17 years old. But then we started getting really micro with it. I started asking them, who's your council person? Who's your senator? So who's this local person? And a lot of them, they had no knowledge, but they could all of them could tell me what they knew about the Electoral College. Every single one in the class could tell me that. None of them could tell me anything that they knew locally. So, you know, I had to fix my face because I was like, all right, I'm gonna need y'all in those books. And some of them were taking like AP history. I was like, okay, so I don't know. I'm not gonna talk to school, but I'm just gonna say that, you know, I think that they should have definitely been more knowledgeable about their local community, but it was an opportunity for us to now have that dialogue, for us to have that conversation. For me,
it is so true.
Like things they should be out here knowing in their community, people that they should be connected with. And like you said, Marissa, opportunity for them to participate in the process, right?
Exactly.
So they can volunteer. They can volunteer to go. They can do phone banking. They can volunteer to do lit jobs. Like there's opportunity for them to be part of these campaigns that are happening in their local cities. And just an extra added bonus for them, I told them a lot of kids in our state need to do community service. So I was like, this is 5 hours for community service.
Yes,
you do community service, you're helping out your local person, your local elected official who believes the same thing that you believe, right? There, talk to them, you know what they're about. So like, they're like, okay, we're on the same page. I believe in you. I'm supporting you. You get your community service hours, and then you also get that information and that education. I had so many families come up to me days later. We had like some kind of like meeting a couple of days later, and so many of their parents came up to me and was like, our kids came home so excited because a lot of them registered to vote actually in the class. They were so excited that we had talked about it, that they had registered to vote. They was like, nobody knew her name, but they were like, this lady, like she came in and she did like this presentation with us. Like they were so super excited. And the best kudos I got from not last year's class, but the class before that, which is the class that my son was in. And I actually was in front of his class. He was in the front and I was in front of his class, and he's rolling his eyes and he's like, oh, that's my mom. He even said to me, like, good presentation, Mom. He was like, I learned a lot. I was like, and that's all I need.
Got the mic. Mom did the good.
Like, like I have, and he's always been around politics. I have a sister who's an elected official. I have cousins who are like district leaders, but he's always been around it. But even he learned something from the presentation. So, our young people, we need to help them galvanize around this and really start learning more about not just the federal elections, but these local elections. I told them, you could be in ShopRite next to your council person.
That's right.
And because you don't know who they are, you can't have a conversation with them.
And that's what this, MPU's toolkit can help even youngsters, these millennials, as you mentioned, high schoolers, college students. Absolutely. I mean, just the other day in our local news, I was listening to high schoolers that were encouraging other high schools that once they turn, at least about 18, by the time election day, they can vote, and they're educating them. And it was so impressive to see these high schoolers that are going from campus to campus within their school district. And then they're wanting to say, well, okay, they even had a goal. Like, okay, once we finish our district campus, we want to go outside and keep continuing educating kids our age, because it is important for us to vote. And then educate them, like Maritza was saying, where we got to talk about these deadlines and talk about, reminders of what to do, and then how to go out in the community. When you have toolkits like what we have, it helps them so much easier. And then two, what I love is make a pledge, make a pledge. If MPU is up for that task, then my question to families, and that's anybody that's watching, is, are you up for the task, right? Are you going to pledge to cast that vote, right? But also then pledge to remind your neighbors, your friends, your families, your kids, your grandkids, if they're of age, and go further and promote.
Take them with you. Get them. Somebody got a minivan. Put them all in there. You all go at the same time.
Tell everybody in there and go vote.
Tell your comadres. Tell your abuelitas. Tell them.
Everybody got to go. Everybody needs to go. And not only to vote in elections, and this is my plug, y'all. Y'all know me about this. The census.
What do we have? 8 days? We have 8 more days, right?
Yes, and you know why we only have 8 days? Because the powers that be right now refused to extend the date.
Yep.
It would typically run until, I think, the 1st of November. But they said, no, that's it. So basically, there are going to be millions of people not counted. So, and that equates to billions of dollars.
Yes.
That brings a lot of money for the community.
I know my example that I learned, because I'm a census champion, $21,000 per person in Philly. That's counted. That equates to over the next 10 years. Right. So you guys can look up in your city what that amount equates to per person.
Right.
And this is going to affect schools, hospitals, Pell Grants, Head Start, school lunches, senior citizen centers, Medicare for seniors, SNAP benefits for families. So if all these families are not being counted, guess what? We don't have the funding for it.
Exactly. And that's the important part, is getting it out there. Because I know, and then don't ignore the census person that comes knocking on your door.
Yes.
Hey, even though they're saying, we show that you didn't fill it out, because that's exactly what happened funny thing because Maritza brought that up. before.
Yeah.
And it happened to me. He came knocking on our door, and I said, "No, sir, I actually filled it out." He goes, "Okay." But then I also was able to help him because he was questioning about my neighbors and
Yes.
stuff. So it's great to help out those people out there doing that. You know, they're volunteers. They're taking their time. Maritza's one of them. She could tell you.
Oh, they're getting paid, honey. They're getting paid.
They are not volunteers. They are.
They getting paid. In Philly, it was $25 an hour.
I need to go to Philly.
So people, it depends by city and state, the need, the great need. But it also became a safety issue for me. I had to stop.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, me going out there by myself in certain neighborhoods, I didn't feel safe. So I let them know, I'm sorry, I can't continue. If you guys would plan this better and put people in pairs to then canvas so they wouldn't be alone, I would have felt safer.
Yep.
Yep.
But I got to give it to you. I mean, the census, I got a card too in the mail. I got, a text. I don't know how I still got that. I'm still questioning the text one. I got a text. I got, so I got to give it to him for really trying it. It is very important to fill that information out because it really does help, like Maritza was saying, how it brings back that funding back to us. And I know a lot of families are still, eerie about, because my mom was one of them too. And I know my mom's probably going to kill me for talking about her.
But not even that, even for both reasons, for voting and for the census, it also puts you down in history.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So years from now, when we're all gone, regarding the census, our descendants could look back and see where we were, where we lived.
Exactly.
They could look back at voter registrations from, 50 years from now and see we were registered voters. We voted in these elections. We voted this many times.
Right.
It's something that our future generations could look back on and say, yeah, my family did this and this is why we're still doing it.
Exactly. Family.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that. We never talk about. That's Maritza. I love that. I love
No,
that.
Bernita told me that. She said, she was like, you know what? I found some of my family through census information.
That's right. That's how when they do research.
That's family history.
Yes.
That's usually the first place where they look. They can tell you, where your family lived, what nationality they were, what race, like all of it. Wow, I never thought about it like that. That's
a really great way to go back, especially when you have your younger generation coming in and they don't know, either the family's no longer here with you.
Exactly.
I still talk about my father and talking to them and telling them what, that's a great way because you can tell them like, this is what this person did back then.
Yes.
You're telling your lineage, but at the same time, you're educating them how important it is.
Yeah. And how powerful your family has been throughout the years. Right.
It's very true because sometimes families don't tell you everything, but it's a powerful thing, right? It was like, it's like when my father, besides voting, but when my father passed away, he was a very advocate in Boy Scouts, because he was an Eagle Scout. Okay. We did not know when he passed away and, because we had a Boy Scout ceremony for him because he was a troop leader, is that he was the first Hispanic in his, I think in 60, I forgot what year it was now, to get an Eagle Scout in Houston.
Wow.
And actually, I believe in the state of Texas at the time.
Look at that.
Trailblazer. See?
So it's good to go. So if you're saying with the census, you actually can learn a lot from your family and pass that information down. And at the same time, you're educating them about the importance of voting and being involved in the census. So I think that's great.
That's really great. Also, something else the census does, it provides you an opportunity to have an additional lawmaker, right? Because the number of people in that area, and if you have a certain amount of people, you get additional lawmakers, right? Who doesn't need another lawmaker who has their best interest at heart, casting a ballot, right? For them, like making a vote for them or starting a policy, like. I would like another, senator or freeholder or, assembly person. I would like to have that person in my corner. If it's somebody who believes what I believe and somebody who is for the best interest of my community, I would love to have an additional person that's now an extra body fighting for you in that state house, fighting for you in that courthouse, fighting for you in City Hall, fighting for you in DC. I would love to see that. So that's just another reason why it's important. to make sure that you do your U.S. Census. Y'all know we could talk all night.
Yes.
We can.
Yes,
we can talk all night.
I know we can talk all night. So,
especially when it comes to voting and census.
no,
With these two, I'm going to say it. With these two powerhouse ladies here, not saying I'm not either, they will talk your ear off.
We are so passionate about talking about voting. You see, it makes us smile. It makes us happy just to think about engaging people in the voting process, talking about it, really educating people. You know, like Wendy said, we have our toolkit on our National Parents Union site, which is an opportunity for other people to actually learn, get some resources, be able to talk to other people about voting, bring other people to the polls, talk to young people. I mean, it just gets our energy like up. It just gets our blood boiling. Just talking about all the good things about voting. And again, like I said at the beginning, always question, if someone is trying so hard to stop you from doing something, then that must mean that it's a powerful tool. And voting is a powerful, powerful tool. It's the way we all come together. We do it individually, but in the larger scheme, we all come together to cast our vote to make sure that we have the people who represent us, who represent our community, and have our community's best interest at heart.
It is so true.
You know what to do. Either vote them out or run for office yourself, right? Replace them.
That's right.
Vote them out or replace them. You know, if you feel like you can do a better job, get on in there. Get on in there, parents. Like,
yeah.
Get in
and
there.
like your local officials, I mean, you got your school board, you know, you got your elected officials, you got your council members. I mean, everything that you think about what's going on in your community is an elected position. So it is our right and it is our privilege to vote. So I encourage everybody to do it. And if you need help on that, you know, you can reach any three of us here. Anybody at the National Parent Union, but we do encourage you to go to our website at nationalparentsunion.org, download our toolkit. It's free, it's easy. To get all the information you need to spread that word, to have our voices heard from our communities.
Absolutely.
Yes, parents. And if you're interested in being a member of the National Parents Union,
exactly,
go on to the website. If it could be an independent member, it could be an organizational member, and another position that you can be elected for, if you're really interested, your own school's parent group.
Yes.
That is also another place where people can vote and choose who is going to be the voice of the parent organization of your children's schools. Don't forget that.
Absolutely. And make sure that you are watching all of us on the National Parent Union Facebook page. We have Maritza with Looped In with Maritza. We have Wendy Gonzalez with Parent Connection. We have the Parent Impact. Make sure you're watching our shows. We have fantastic guests on. Maritza is going to have some super fantastic guests.
Amazing guests coming.
Her guests are like,
gotta stay.
Yes. Make sure you continue to watch us on our Facebook pages. We're going to be talking a lot about voting. We're going to be on each other's shows again, talking about voting. It is important. We have 42 more days to go. It is not midnight. Today is National Voter Registration Day. If you have not registered to vote, please do so. You can go to the When We All Vote page. You can register to vote in your state. You can send it to other people, share it on your social media pages. Make sure that everyone who is able to register in your family, on your block, in your neighborhood, is registered to vote, because we want every family to vote, every single family. All those 8 million people in Philadelphia, you know, however many people in New Jersey, Texas is a giant state. We need everyone to get out there. And
Oy mi gente. I mean, October 5th is the last day to register to vote here in Texas. Early voting starts October 13th through 30th. So go out and get the vote.
Get out there. New Jerseyans, October 13th, that's your last day to register to vote. In New Jersey, we have buku options. You can register, you can vote by mail. You can go to a ballot box. There will be 10 more presented in your county. You can register, you can vote in person. You can actually go to a site and vote. Or you can drop off your vote by mail ballot at your local elections department. So you have 4 ways to now be able to cast that ballot in New Jersey.
Yes, and in PA, October 19th is the deadline for all 3, whether it's online registration, You can, make sure you submit your registration in the mail or in-person registration. The deadline to request a ballot is October 27th. Early voting runs Monday, September 14th through Tuesday, October 27th. The dates and times vary depending on where you live. You can go on vote.org as well to get all that information. Please get out your vote, family. Get it out there. Your vote needs to be counted. It's very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, ladies. This was so great. I love seeing you guys. I mean, we could probably see each other every day. I think we see each other three times this week. So it's always great.
It is always great. It's familia.
Yes.
Yes. This is
Pleasure.
a family conversation, y'all. Y'all would just witness to like a family conversation. This is literally the way we talk on our weekly meetings.
All the time.
It is.
Guys were privy to, like this family conversation about voting, something that's so important, like voting. And we just want to make sure we can't stress enough. We can't stress enough that families go out and vote, because we know that when every family votes, communities change and things get better, and we build that camaraderie with each other. And we want to keep that going. We want to keep that going. We want it to happen across the nation, right? We're not from the same state. We're not from the same towns, but we have that camaraderie that brings us together. And voting is one of those things that brings us all together as a nation.
We have to have our voices heard.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Yes, I'll see
And
you
don't
soon.
forget, every family
Make sure
vote.
you go on our site, download our toolkit, get our swag, and make sure you register to vote. Have a good night, everybody. See you
Have a
later.
good night.